You look younger on Facebook, man.
Huh?
I said you look a little
Live,
younger there, brother.
Well, I'm glad.
live.
Good evening, and welcome to Rocking with the Census, featuring leaders and trusted partners in Otero County, helping us all to understand why it is important to be counted in the 2020 census. I'm Pamela Herndon, your moderator for the evening. I serve as the Chief Executive Officer for the KWH Law Center and as a project manager for the 2020 census program. We have assembled an amazing array of panelists for you this evening, and we have gifts and prizes for you just for tuning in to the program to learn more about the census. So please remember to write your questions in the chat box, tag your friends to join us, or comment on the program, and you could receive one of the many prizes we are providing to you this evening just because you are here. As you tune in with us this evening, you can ask questions. And one of the questions that you may be thinking about right now is just what is the census and why are we making such a big deal of it this year? Well, let me give you a brief answer. The census is a major event that happens every 10 years and is mandated by the Constitution of the United States. Remember, we have state laws and we have federal laws that govern where we live. And the census is a federally mandated mechanism for counting every single person living in the United States, and we focus on one particular day. And the target date during the census during 2020 is April 1st. In order for us to plan to develop long-term strategies and to ensure we have enough resources to accommodate the people living in the United States, we target a date to count every single person living in the United States. Our target date is also known as the National Day of Census. So now that you know what the census is, let's meet some of our esteemed panel members. These are people in the community that you see each and every day and that you recognize as the trusted members and leaders in your community, and you rely upon them. So let's hear why it's important to be counted in the 2020 census, and let's hear what they say about how we will motivate every single person in Otero County to get counted in the 2020 census. First, let's go to Dr. Juan Garcia. Dr. Garcia is the Vice President of Student Success at New Mexico State University. Dr. Garcia, welcome to Rocking with the Census. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So will you tell us why it's important to be counted in the 2020 census, and why are you so passionate about the census?
Well, there are many facets of the census that benefit the community. And being in education for over 15, 20 years, I'm going to focus on the census and the impact on education. So, you know, people sometimes imagine that the census and the funding from the census comes to build new equipment. Well, being in higher education at colleges and universities, we've always worked with middle schools, high schools, and elementary schools. So I have seen firsthand when buildings need help and students need help. I have worked in San Antonio, Texas, Houston, and now I'm here in New Mexico. So I have worked in urban, suburban, and rural areas. And I can honestly say that I've seen the same need across the board. So when students see a facility that is in need of repair, we're sending a subliminal message to the student that we really don't care about where they have their buildings and how they have them. And secondly, that type of environment has to impact the learning for children. So there's got to be a connection. Well, there are connections between learning and having a good, peaceful learning environment. So students need help, good buildings, qualified instructors, so that they can be able to give the most qualified education to students. Right now, beyond the money from the census, um, we in the state of New Mexico, our funding has gone down. Our state funding has gone down. So we're we've got to look at our budget strings and what's happening to them. So not only if you don't get counted and we miss out on the budgets that we need higher, we're going to get a double whammy with not getting the funding that we need. And buildings, we have some buildings that, well, I don't have to preach to the choir here, but we have some buildings here that, and schools are hit with unexpected expenses that can really hurt. I think everybody back a while ago, there was the big asbestos scare. So schools had to forcibly look at their schools, make sure that it was a clean, asbestos-free area. So that was a lot of money for for schools that they did not anticipate. So not only is the census time to count for some federal funding, but we're also working, schools have cost year round. Utilities go up, the cost of living goes up. So schools are constantly trying to find the best avenue that they can to have a good buildings and good learning environment for their schools. That's what census in education is going to be vital, extremely vital for our students. And New Mexico has historically been undercounted. So New Mexico has been historically undercounted. So we cannot afford to let that happen again, because the next census is going to be, guess what, 10 years later on down. So that's going to be a very that's going to be we're going to be playing catch up for about 20 years. That's going to be tough.
It will be tough, Dr. Garcia, because I'd hate to think that we have so many more students and not enough room for them to get the education that they deserve and need. So thank you for that very insightful comment on education and making sure that we do count correctly every single person here so that we can have the resources for our students. We thank you very, very much for that.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So now let's move to our next community leader. That is none other than Pastor James Forney, who leads the Corinth Missionary Baptist Church in Alamogordo, New Mexico. He also serves as the president of White Sands Rotary Club. Pastor Forney, welcome to Rocking with the Census.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it's good to be with all you distinguished greeters this evening. And we give God all the praise and the glory. And I want to thank you again for this opportunity to be able to talk to our community members, because the census is, as Dr. Garcia said, a very important thing for not only Otero County, but the state of New Mexico, because of our size. In our state, we have normally somewhere around 2.3 million folk. And so I pulled up some numbers to kind of piggyback on what Dr. Garcia had just stated, why this census is so important to our community here in Otero County. We get a lot of funding because of the Title I grants based on the census, the number of folk that are identified through the census. And these fundings do a lot of things for this community. They provide health care, public housing. They provide a national school lunch program for our children. And the last figures that I just got, our school districts last year received over $119 million in funding. Block grants, $6 million. And then Otero County received almost $3 million last year to help us in our educational area. And so it's very important that we get people identified through the census, because a lot of people will feel like because they're not U.S. citizens that they don't want to be identified, or they might be deported, or all of those things. But it's important that we get everybody identified, amen, and so that we can get the maximum amount of dollars that we can get for our community here in Otero County. Now, we're going to make our facilities at Korean Baptist Church available to our community. We have a computer lab at 402 4th Street. It'll be available to anyone. You don't have to have computer skills or knowledge. You just come by, bring your census form, and we will help you upload it online. And it'll only take about 5 minutes. We'll be open Monday through Thursday from 8 to 12. And so all you have to do is come by, come on in. We still have to worry about, the spacings and the care of our hand washing and all of that. So we'll have some things available, but you need to bring your own mask. But we'll have the sanitizing for your hands, and we'll wipe down the computers after each use. And if you can't do it, we'll have folk available to assist you to get this information online. So if you have any questions, you can reach me at 575-430-8998. Amen.
So Pastor Forney, would you repeat that number one more time in case somebody missed those numbers?
Sure will. 575-430-8998. If you have any questions for me, please call. Do not hesitate, and we will get you all the information you need.
So Pastor Forney, you mentioned that the computer center might be open from 8 until noon. So what happens if an individual can't come during those times? What other options are you making available for them?
We will do this. They call me, we'll make an appointment for them, and we will meet them at the appointed time.
That deserves another amen. Thank you very much, Pastor Forney.
You're welcome.
So let's meet another community leader. It's none other than City Commissioner Nadia Sykes from District 2, and she's also the Mayor Pro Tem in Alamogordo. And guess what? She also hosts a weekly radio show entitled The Community Corner on KRYS AM 1230 on your radio dial. Welcome to Rocking with the Census, Mayor Pro Tem Nadia Sykes.
Well, thank you, Ms. Herndon. What a nice introduction. I was going to also say that it's always hard to follow Pastor Forney. He always has good information, and he has such enviable passion. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this really exciting Facebook Live event. I'm really thrilled to be here with you, happy to be among all of these leaders in our community to encourage you to get counted. That's what we're here for. As Ms. Herndon said, I am Nadia Sykes, and I have the honor of serving as your Mayor Pro Tem. I wanted to mention that when I first joined the commission, a little over 8 years ago, the census information from 2010 was what we used and what was often quoted. And it came into play whenever we discussed economic development, whenever we discussed the impact of that economic development. And many of the members of the commission at that time thought that the Alamogordo population number was inaccurate, that we had more citizens than the census indicated. And the undercount was impacting the city. For example, undercounts of individuals and demographic groups that are charitable nonprofits, and we have some very generous charitable nonprofits, are the ones that they serve. It can lead to inadequate representation and funding, and that could in turn increase the pressure on the nonprofits and on the foundations, the state, the tribal and local governments, and businesses in undercounted areas to do even more to address the needs of the people that they're trying to address. Now, just as for the nonprofit businesses, just that they rely heavily on quality census data to analyze their potential customers, nonprofit organizations need quality census data so they can better understand the needs of the people who they serve. Now, will the population of a nonprofit serves to advance its mission, like the veterans, like the children, like the aging, the disabled, those with blue collar versus high tech jobs, will it shrink? Will it grow? Will it remain constant? And the census data is what enables us to know that. Now, the answer influences the nonprofit's decisions on whether to expand, reduce its staff, merge with other organizations, limit the services, which would be very sad, that they're providing to the community. The census provides invaluable statistical information. Federal statistics are the nation's hidden gem. A lot of us use those numbers. It's a treasure trove of data that serves as a foundation for very smart decision-making in the public and the private sectors. Federal statistics guide trillions of dollars in economic activity through capital investments and the movement and provision of goods and services to every community in the country. Now, this business activity in turn drives employment and housing growth, community development, and economic stability. And we're going to start seeing, after this COVID-19 thing, we're going to start seeing just how important it is. Now, here's another important piece of this data, and it's something that we here in New Mexico don't really have to be real concerned about right now, but the data collected by the census is actually what determines the number of seats that each state has in the US House of Representatives. It's a process called apportionment, and it's also used to distribute billions in federal funds to local communities. The current method that we use for apportionment, it's called the method of equal proportions. It was actually adopted by Congress in 1941 following the Census of 1940. Now, what this does is this method assigns seats in the House of Representatives according to priority value. And as I said, New Mexico isn't in any danger right now of losing seats, but there are probably 10 states who will. And those numbers, the population, will be reapportioned. Apportionment is one of the most important functions of these censuses that take place every 10 years. Apportionment measures the population so that seats in the US House of Representatives can be correctly apportioned among the states. The number of voting seats in the House of Representatives now, as you know, is 435. It's been that way since 1913. Now, based on the projections of population growth, as I mentioned, there are a number of states, most of them are in the Northeast, that will be losing seats. We don't stand to do that, but it's still so important that for the next 10 years, our numbers remain so that we could continue having 3 congressional districts. I think that's very important. Now, the reapportionment is expected and the realignment of the districts in December of 2020, resulting in a very lengthy process that will go through to redraw lines before the 2022 midterm elections. So I can't emphasize enough how important that aspect is. Now, how does the census impact our business community? When planning a new business or deciding whether to hire more staff, entrepreneurs and big chains alike, big chains that we'd like to see here, they have to answer key questions. And among them are, who are my potential customers? How many live in the area? How many smaller businesses are already operating nearby? How much are those competitors paying their employees? That's why it's important to respond to the 2020 census. These responses could lead, for our community, could lead to more jobs, new businesses, and businesses use population statistics to help decide where to add jobs, where to open new businesses, where to open new offices. States and local governments use census data to regulate businesses. Now, the final population tally is used to divvy up more than $675 billion annually for all the states, for all of these programs. Now, if you've already completed your census response, I just want to say good for you. I think that's great. Now, if you haven't, there's still time, but I encourage you to do it soon. It is so important. So thank you, and thank you to all the other people here giving you good information about why you should be counted.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Nadia Sykes. You know, you said everything you said was wonderful and amazing But you know what I like most of all? If everybody gets counted, we have 3 congressional seats. What if we could get one of those 10 seats that are going to be lost in the Northeast?
Exactly.
4 seats.
Wouldn't that be great? So
That would absolutely be awesome. And to think that we could just bring more jobs into our communities and grow in that manner just by being counted in the census. What, again, what amazing insight from all of our panelists in showing just how creative we can be simply by being counted. Thank you again for your comments.
well, thank you.
So I think that we have a video that sort of brings it all together. So let's go to our videographer right now, and let's see what that video looks like.
Okay, let's do it.
Otero County counts. Participating in the 2020 census is vital for Otero County's economic growth and sustainability. Entrepreneurs use census data like populations and its rate of growth in the community to help decide where to add jobs or help new stores or other businesses. The census helps determine where and how federal, state, and local funds are spent on development of infrastructure for securing water resources and treating wastewater to protect you and our environment. These funds also help with improving roads, planning new highways, and providing access to dependable means of transit throughout our community. An undercount can hinder important infrastructure in our communities and can prevent economic growth. Let's make sure that everyone is represented because you count, I count, and Otero County counts.
That was absolutely excellent. It was a great way to summarize everything that we've heard thus far. And as we get ready for our next esteemed panelists to come forward, it just lays the groundwork for the amazing things that I know we're going to hear from him. So let's meet Minister Warren Robinson. He is the minister at Owen Chapel AME Church in Alamogordo, New Mexico. Minister Warren, welcome to Rocking with the Census in Alamogordo.
Thank you, Mrs. Herndon. I've come real early to the census count. When I was 12 years old, my mother was hired as a census numerator. I mean, she was a counter, and she was getting $10 an hour. That was a lot of money back then in 1960, $10 an hour. And so I would go with her as she would have surveys for people to fill out. And so I was very familiar with this at a young age and watched how the count in our city, in our county, in our state made a difference to our representation. Many, many years later, here in Alamogordo, I'm part of several boards. I'm on several boards with Commissioner Sykes. And the need for good statistical information is critical. A lot of times we'll look for grant money and we'll start writing the grant, and there's not enough statistics. There's not enough information on the homeless population or different demographics that you need in the grant. So it's critical for Otero County to make sure that those numbers are included. All of the guests before have enumerated very well why it's so important. If you don't have the data, many times you can't apply for the grant. It is critical that people not only get counted now, but understand how the count works. We're in a digital age, and I'll just be real honest with you. If you can't be counted by paper and the census, you can be tracked. We're getting ready to do that with the coronavirus. But it's important to know how all these things work. And so we should do this not only just the census year, we should make sure that people are aware of how this count affects their lives yearly. Because Commissioner Sykes is right. It makes a difference for the next 20 years on what you do. So I'm not only behind this, I'm going to be at Reverend Forney's church to help out with the county. And I applaud all those people who are willing to do this. And like Dr. Garcia said, this is an educational process. This really should go on all the time to learn how valuable and how important it is to be counted. So I'm going to work with the colleagues that you see on the screen, and those in the community who are trying to gather data for Otero County. It is critical, and I want to be a part of that effort to help people to get counted.
Well, thank you very much, Minister Warren. And what you have brought home is just how you all interact, intertwine, and collaborate to lift up the community and work together. What an inspiring story, and it is great to hear. Thank you for emphasizing that for us this evening.
You're welcome.
It is important for the community to see that. So, we've talked to a lot of ministers and pastors today, but we've not spoken to one like Pastor Leroy Copeland. So he comes to us from the New Hope Full Gospel Baptist Church in Alamogordo, where he also serves as the district overseer for the Southern New Mexico and El Paso district of the Full Baptist Church Fellowship International. Pastor Copeland, it is a pleasure to have you among us, with us, and to share your ideas. So tell us what you're passionate about regarding the census and what you'd like the community to know.
First of all, Ms. Pamela, let me say thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. I come because the census is very critical to us on a one-to-one basis. I have already completed my census for this year. It took about 5 or 6 minutes on the computer. It is critical for us to get people out and to get them actually to do their census online, because we need the numbers. As a county, we need the numbers. I served as a executive director for a nonprofit here in the community for about a little over 9 years. And one of the things that I always encountered when I was applying for private grants or federal grants is that they wanted to know the size of the community that I was in. So those numbers are critical, not only for us locally, but they are critical for people that don't know about Otero County, that don't know where Otero County is. And when it comes for private foundations giving out money to help a lot of nonprofits, that is one piece of the paperwork that they look at. They're looking at numbers. They want to know how diverse the community is, what the nonprofit itself is doing. We have a host of nonprofits in our community that depend quite a lot on money from foundations and grants, state funding, federal funding. All of those things play a huge part in how they receive money and whether or not they're going to receive what they're asking for. The services that the nonprofits provide in our community are critical for our community. Oftentimes we don't pay attention to that part of it simply because we're just looking at the goods and services that are being provided, but somebody has to pay for that. Our census numbers will help us to draw that money into our community. I heard Dr. Garcia talk a little bit earlier about education. Now working in education with the Alamogordo school system, we have the opportunity to listen to our teenagers and see the things that they're dealing with and talking with parents. Once again, it comes down to numbers. What is happening in our community in relationship to other communities? We may not pay attention to it, but it is critical for each and every person in Otero County to complete their census. Pastor Forney has graciously opened up Corinth and the computer lab to assist. I will be one of the people that will assist him in doing that along with Pastor Warren. We just want people to know that it is not as difficult, nor is it as intimidating as they may think. I'm not computer savvy, but I always seem to have somebody around that if I don't know what to do, I'll ask a question. But it is critical for each person, as you're watching this, as you share this with others, remind them that every person counts in Otero County. Don't allow them to say, oh, it doesn't matter. It really does matter. Everything that everyone has said about infrastructure, about all of the other things that tie in, we can look at that on an individual basis. And we realize that some of the goods and services that we provide won't be there because the numbers are not there for us to obtain the funding when we're asking people outside of Otero County, outside of New Mexico, would you help us? Their first question is, well, who are you? How big are you? What do you look like? And that may seem impersonal, but they're not going to come to Otero County. We want their dollars to come anyway. So once again, I thank you for the opportunity to just talk about a little part of it. Everyone needs to be counted. Anything that we can do to assist in that endeavor, please let us know. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Pastor Copeland. That was really great to share the information. And, you know, I really like the way you emphasize and you bring forth the fact that counting now in this year will take care of children who may be just babies at the moment, but they'll be 10 years old in the future. And they'll need a place to go to elementary school or a park to play in. So thank you for bringing that out. And then to make sure that you're showing no matter how many denominations, how many churches we have, you are all working together toward one goal, and that's to make sure that everybody's counted in the 2020 census. But Pastor Copeland, what is that you're wearing? What is on that shirt?
I have my shirt, Otero County, everybody counts. We want to be sure to remind everybody that you need to do your census. Your personal time is critical for us to make this happen.
Well, that is great. And thank you for wearing that shirt to remind everybody this evening. So our videographer, I see her in the background and she says, I have another video that I want to show the community. So we're going to turn it over to our videographer. Show us another video. How are we bringing this all together?
The census helps determine which areas qualify for critical resources that children and families depend on for the next 10 years. That's basically an entire childhood. Little ones need all the support they can get during early childhood development. When newborn babies and kids are counted, proper funding is allocated for schools and important educational services stay supported, like special education, Head Start, after-school programs, and even school lunches. Schools, parks, community centers, and senior centers rely on your census participation for funding. I can't imagine one Saturday away from the park. Can you imagine a day where schools, parks, or activity centers don't exist?
Also, America's libraries are the leading source of no-fee public access to the internet, computers, and technology training. The results of the 2020 census will allocate billions of dollars in federal funding to our local communities, including more than $1 billion to libraries.
Let's make sure that everyone is represented because you count, I count, and Otero County counts.
What an excellent place for that video right there. I could not imagine a county without schools, without libraries, without parks either. It just would not be the same. So right now, I'd like you to meet our next wonderful and amazing community person. She's also the fingers behind those videos. So let's meet Michelle Brideau, the Communications and Marketing Administrator for the City of Albuquerque. Ms. Brideau, welcome to Rocking with the Census, and you have really been keeping us rocking. So thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm actually the Communications and Marketing Administrator for the City of Alamogordo.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Thank you.
But yeah, I want to talk a little bit about how the census, some of the other things that the census impacts. Community safety is huge. We all need to make sure that we have enough firefighters, policemen, the people in our community to ensure that we stay safe. The census numbers impact whether we're going to get a new firehouse and where should that firehouse be. It helps to ensure that protect us from being prepared for wildfires. That is one of the big things that we do have to be concerned about here in Otero County, up in our mountain communities. Wildfires are one of the few natural disasters that we are concerned about. And it also helps the funding from grants and that depend on census data impacts how we recover from emergency situations. So right now, our census numbers are looking really good as far as response rates. You can go on to the 2020 census.gov website and look at the response rates. Currently for Otero County, we are at a 43.4% response rate. In the 2010 census, we had a 49.9% self-response rate. So self-response is any response that was received by prior to a enumerator coming around and talking. So we're almost up to that point right now, which is really great. I know that this is the first time that we've ever been able to respond to the census online. And that is having a big impact on people's ability to respond to our census quickly and easily. So we have a high rate of people that are responding to the census via online response rate. Some of the other things that I want you to be aware of that we have in Otero County and City of Alamogordo 2020 Census Facebook page. And on there that we're sharing a lot of great information. We're answering questions for people. So if you have questions after this live event, that's a great place to go and ask questions. We've been doing regular contests on there for people who have completed their census. And we're also working on a response rate contest that will launch next week. And that will go on for a while, but we are going to hopefully encourage our friends and family and neighbors to encourage each other to respond to the census, to increase our response rates. For every percentage that we do not, of non-response, we lose hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars for our state and for our county and for our city. So it's incredibly important that we have a great response rate for all of the reasons that a lot of our other leaders have talked about, for our schools, for our healthcare, for our roads, for public transportation, public safety. All of those numbers will impact us for the next 10 years. So it's incredibly important that we get an accurate count.
So thank you for that. You are absolutely correct. If we don't have roads that will sustain a growing population, imagine what those roads will be like and what they would do to our cars. And it just would not be a comfortable situation. So thank you for pointing that out to us. We appreciate that. But you also talked about making sure that people go onto our comment section and make sure that they write their questions in. And I want to emphasize that again, because if people will check in, let us know that you're there and that you are listening to the wonderful information that's being shared today, you have the opportunity to win a prize, something that you can wear and show off to all of your neighbors that you are being counted and responsible to the census. So thank you, Ms. Bordeaux. We really appreciate that.
Sure.
Now, if I remember correctly, you may have another video for us right now that really focus on the safety, the public safety aspect of what can happen when people are counted in the 2020 census.
Absolutely. Let me show you that.
Thank you.
Otero County counts. Participating in the 2020 Census Questionnaire can help fund our fire department's emergency preparedness and disaster response. Unplanned wildfires can be deadly, destructive to our homes, and cause severe damage to our land and outdoors. The census ensures places in Otero County like Alamogordo, Cloudcroft, and Mescalero have enough resources and help to contain and prevent devastating wildfires and flooding. Your participation in the 2020 census will help determine new locations for fire stations, fund projects like the Alamogordo-McKinley Channel Project, and the Mescalero Soldier Canyon Fire and flooding improvement efforts. Let's make sure that everyone is represented, because you count, I count, and Otero County counts.
What a great summary. Thank you again very much, Ms. Bordeaux.
You're welcome.
You know what? we have a woman who actually had the foresight to say, let's bring all of these community leaders together because I work well with them and I want the community to see how well we all work together. So, well, let's welcome now none other than Commissioner Sharon McDonald. Commissioner McDonald, welcome to Rocking with the Census. You represent District number 5, where your mission is to be the voice that connects the community with all the imperative information that our communities need to grow and to thrive. And you're doing that today when you invited all of these wonderful people to come together to share information about the 2020 census. And Commissioner McDonald, tell us more about this amazing event that we are a part of right now and what it will continue to do for our communities.
Well, thank you, Pamela. I really appreciate it. I'm going to announce myself again. I'm Sharon McDonald, and I'm the Commissioner for District number 5 here in Alamogordo. I would like to thank the team of people here tonight because without you, I don't think this could have been done. So we're looking forward to 100% participation in Otero County. I said, you might as well shoot big. Because, I said, you want all of the people to turn up and really complete that census. I've been on the Otero County City of Alamogordo Joint Complete Count Committee since last year, and we appreciate the cooperation from Otero County and for the city's leadership. Special thanks to the Alamogordo Chamber of Commerce. Of course, I wanted to say thank you to our 3 faith-based pastors in District number 5. All of their churches are here in District number 5, so I really appreciate that. And that is my own pastor, who is Pastor James Forney. Then there's Pastor Warren Robinson, who I've got to know this year a little bit better. And then, of course, I've known Pastor Leroy Copeland for a while. Nadia, of course, I really appreciate you being a person that has helped me out since I've been on the commission. So I'm grateful for that. Pamela, thank you. The outreach and just the help and the support, I really appreciate that. We have a couple of people behind the scenes too. Friend Brittany Gandy, who is the media specialist, and Sheree Edmond, who is going to take down questions. And she's soon to be an enumerator for the U.S. Census here in this area. So we thank everybody for all the things that you have contributed or done to make this possible. I wanted to say, as you know, that I think that Michelle touched on it a little bit, about the website where we can track all of the information about how we're responding. And when she talked about the Otero County is at 43.3, I wanted to mention the reason why that number is a little low is because the mailers that are going out to the rural areas like Muscalera, Cloudcroft, that have post office box numbers, they're not going to receive their ID numbers until after June 1st. And so we want to make sure that that number is low right now, but of course it is going to come up once June 1st comes around. We have the number for New Mexico, which is 46.8. But then I'm looking at the city of Alamogordo at 57.8 here. And I'm just saying, yay, I am so happy to see that number because it makes us know that people are getting the message. And this is just another piece of information to make more people go out. And I wanted to say too, for Dr. Juan Garcia, we've been working together since last year. So we kind of feed back off of each other. So I really appreciate the fact that we have had a chance to get to know each other and then also help in the community. One of the other things that I wanted to mention, even though I have heard different numbers of how much each person represents as far as money is concerned for the census, it is actually over $3,000, but I put the $3,000 in there just to say we could be anywhere from $3,000 to $3,700 per person. So that's adult and child. So when we look at that as money coming into New Mexico, the state, as a county, and then also as a city, that's a lot of money coming in here, and it can do a lot of different things. And I just said, based on the fact that we've had the coronavirus here, it's kind of crippled us in some areas, but this is an excellent way that we can get up and we can help ourselves try to, really just kind of generate some type of money for, the city and for the county, and then also for just overall, just every place that the money is needed. And we've talked about different avenues where that money is going to be used. The information that is coming in, that is going to the census, that is personal information and it's confidential, and it's not going to be used for any any data that is going out to actually give people that information. So nobody's going to be identified as a certain race. They're not going to be identified with where you live or anything like that. So that information is going to be insured and it's going to be protected. And I think that when we look at Title 13, that is where the protection comes into place. And anybody that is, giving out information about any individual, there is a very stiff fine. And I believe it's to the tune of $250,000. So that makes people think before they want to just blurt out information. One of the things that I have encountered just in talking to people is an issue where it's actually question number 8 on the questionnaire. And it's asking about your heritage. Is just asking, are you Hispanic, Spanish, or Latino? And that question does not have to be answered. I mean, if your race is in question number 9, but they're looking at that information on a federal level, for the agency. They're also looking at that to see about a certain group. Are they being discriminated against? Also, it protects people, minorities in the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. So people that have that background, that have a Hispanic background, or, that's what they're asking in that particular question. You can be any race. You can be Black and have Hispanic. You can be white and have Hispanic. So that question does not have to, turn you off from the census, but it allows you to complete the information that best suits you. So whatever race you are, you can still be that race, but you can answer that question if you have that background. One of the other pieces that I wanted to bring up, and it has been stated that District Number 5 did not have a really good response in 2010. And therefore, we were undercounted and we did not get the money probably that we should have. And so, and I mean, not just the community, but for at the state and also the local level. So we want to try and just kind of, talk it up to each other so we can get that information out there so it won't happen again. And like I said, we have a real need to fill out that information this time, just so we can be counted. But yes, the bottom line is, like they said, talk is cheap. It takes money to buy land. So everything that comes in, we're going to have to buy it. So we need that money to actually do what we need to do. I wanted to just talk about the fact that Pastor Forney has opened up or at least offered to use the educational center. For those people who are looking at the church, the educational center is across the street from the church. So you would not be entering the church itself, you would be entering a separate facility. It is a very nice facility, and I've seen the computer room. So it is state of the art. The Wi-Fi is tremendous. And everything that I've seen so far in the last 20 years that I've been here, everything has been very stellar. I said there's nothing second rate about the facilities that he's offering. I wanted to just talk again about the fact that, sometimes we don't look ahead. And I think that's one of the things that we need to possess. We need to have a vision because what happens without a vision, there's no planning. So if we look at the next 10 years, well, maybe you might not know what you're doing in 10 years, but if you have a family, if you live in a community, if you're aging, you need medical services, if you're driving on the roads or the highways, if you're traveling throughout the country, you're ready to retire, you need long-term care, you're a veteran, you have children, they need child care, you want to put them in the Head Start. And for a lot of us in this community who are seniors, Medicare B is a part of that program. So we have to look at the fact that the office visits that we're getting, it may be, it's actually being paid for by the U.S. government. So that's something to get us to really respond, because we are not going to be young forever. So it might behoove us to pay attention on that one. As far as housing, there's so much more. And even when I was reading through some of the information, it even determines on how they will equip facilities for people who are disabled. So if you don't report that, and I was just listening to Dr. Garcia and others talking about the fact that the schools are so important, but what about the schools, the universities? We have people who suffer disabilities. We have the veterans who are coming back, even with parts of their body missing, and they do need the help. And so one of the things that we want to do is make sure we focus on having things that are available for everybody and they are comfortable in doing it. And so that's one of the things. We want to eliminate any factors that would keep people from wanting to get ahead. So I just wanted to say that I wanted to thank you all, everybody, even the people listening. Thank you for joining us on Facebook Live today. And like I said, everybody here, I really appreciate all the help that you've given. And I just trust that you will be giving even more in the future. So I hope you have enjoyed rocking with the census. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner McDonald, for bringing all of those items to light and for people to see an even bigger and broader picture of what can happen when they're counted in the 2020 census. So I want to invite our listening audience to please go into the comment line, make sure you check in, because we'll be giving away some amazingly wonderful gifts and prizes to you just for listening to the 2020 census presentation today. And perhaps you could tag your friends and tell them, jump on in, because there's still an opportunity to ask questions, even if you were not listening to all of the presentations that were being made. I do want you to know that a recording of this entire presentation will be on the website and will be on the Facebook pages of our partners, the City of Alamogordo, the Alamogordo Chamber of Commerce, and I'm missing one, Michelle Brideau. Who am I missing? Who's another partner there? Did you unmute yourself and tell us?
I think you're talking about the Otero County Complete Count Committee.
The Otero County Complete Count Committee, the committee that is going to make sure that every single person is counted. So we have a complete count for Otero County. So I see that there are some questions that are coming into the chat line. And the first question that is being asked is there a citizenship question on the census? And do I have to answer it? So Commissioner McDonald, would you like to answer that question?
Well, the answer is no. You do not have to answer that question if you feel uncomfortable with it.
So thank you. There is no citizenship question on the 2020 census at all. So thank you for reminding our audience of that. So they don't have to be afraid of that. So it doesn't matter about your status. All that we are interested in is how many people are here and how many services do we need to provide. I see that there is another question in the chat box, and that question is, what is the deadline for completing the census? So I think that question should go to the Mayor Pro Tem. What is the answer to that, Pro Tem Nadia Sykes?
You know what? I don't know. With the, I thought with the deadlines were extended because of the virus, and I don't have the exact dates, but I know that Commissioner McDonald probably does.
Well, I know that I'm going to share that answer with you all because
I appreciate it. Thank you.
a little bit earlier, and that date is October 31st.
Yes.
That will be the last day to complete the census before there are enumerators knocking on your doors. So it's been pushed out a little bit in terms of people coming to knock on your doors. And you know what? One way you can avoid those enumerators from coming is to get the census completed online, by phone, or using the paper format for doing that. So thank you for reminding us all of that. And Dr. Garcia, this question is for you, and it's specifically directed to you in the 2020 Census chat. And it says, Dr. Garcia, how much money is received per person when they are counted in the census?
I'm sorry, I got some screens that popped up that I didn't want. I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
Yeah, so the question is how much money, or approximately how much money, is received in our county and in our state per person when they are counted in the census?
The statistics and the information that I have is that each person, if we don't get somebody counted, we lose $35,000 that year. So, you know, it's a lot of money.
So you are absolutely right, and thank you for bringing up that number. And when we break it down even further, it looks like about $3,745 per person. So thank you very much, Dr. Garcia. You are definitely the data person who's been sharing all these numbers with us. And so Pastor Forney, and so Pastor Robinson, as you all are engaging with children and you're engaging with making sure that they have all of the resources that they need, can you tell us one more time some of the resources that are available to children? One of our listeners said they missed that part of it and they wanted to hear it.
Amen. One of the things that the Census Bureau provides is the school lunch program, school breakfast program, and those things we're doing right now, especially during the virus. Our school district is providing meals Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at various locations throughout our community, Otero County. And these are free lunches. On Mondays, they give enough lunch, meals really, for 2 days. And then you come back Wednesday, they do the same thing. And then on Friday, they give additional meals for the weekend. So that's one of the things that the census money provides is the meals for our children during this time.
So thank you. Thank you very much for that insightful information. And I'm going to ask Ms. Bordeaux, you know, the people who get selected tonight, and you're the communications person, and you help provide all of this information about marketing communications. How will they know if they won one of the major gifts that we have? Gift cards, we have all sorts of bags and water bottles and amazing gifts. How will they know, Ms. Bordeaux?
So what we're going to do is I will share a link to the Otero County Alamogordo Complete Count Committee page on Facebook. If you want to follow that page, that'd be great. We're going to share a list of the winners on that page. If your name is on that list, then you can message that page and with your address, and we'll get your prize sent over to you.
Wow, well, that's pretty exciting, and that sounds very encouraging. I know that there are lots of people just waiting to see what prize they won. Well, I want to thank each and every one of our panelists today. We're coming up on the end of our hour. You have been incredibly informative, bringing information throughout our community and helping people to understand why it's important to get counted in the 2020 census. So with that, I would like to say good evening and thank you again. And remember, go to 2020census.gov and get counted because we are counting on you. Have a great evening, and we look forward to the next edition of Rocking with the Census in Alamogordo, New Mexico.